Welcome, Big Sky fans. Alex Eshelman here, your conference host and reporter. Joining me today is a very, very special guest. We have the arguably, I don't think it's an argument, the best NFL kicker of all time, Pro Football Hall of Famer, Jan Stenerud, and former Montana State Bobcat. How are you?
I am just fine. Thank you.
Let's take a little trip down memory lane here. You won the Chiefs' very first Super Bowl back in the 1969-1970 year. Tell me about how much has changed. I mean, what are your memories from Super Bowl IV?
You're exactly right. The Super Bowl was played January 11th, 1970. The tickets were $15. Now, I'm talking about Super Bowl IV. It was 8 or 9 in Super Bowl I. In Super Bowl IV that I played in, the halftime show, for example, was 2 trumpet players. It was before the Superdome was built in New Orleans. We played in Tulane Stadium. It seated over 80,000 people. It had rained the night before and had tornado warnings, and the temperature was in the mid-40s. That was cold for New Orleans. There was no NFL Network, of course. There was no ESPN. There was social media was really not a factor. It was just the main television stations. That was it. But everybody watched the Super Bowl IV. And we win, and we got over $15,000 was the winning share for each player on the team. And we were Super Bowl champs.
What was that moment like when you were officially Super Bowl champions and you had brought back to Kansas City the first ever championship?
It was hard to describe for me, only my third year. And of course, came from, got off my skis off my feet just a few years before that. It was a fairly amazing experience. But I thought more about the guys that have been turned down from the NFL. They weren't good enough to play in the NFL. And some of them had a choice. They could have signed. Some of them were turned down, and they made it with us. And now they're playing on a league they didn't think were good enough. And for our team now, AFL, to beat them, I can only envision or imagine how important it was to a guy like Len Dawson, who'd been sitting on the bench for 6 years with the Steelers and the Browns, and never got to play hardly in the NFL. And Buck Buchanan and Johnny Robinson, Bobby Bell, and all these great older players, they weren't supposedly good enough to play in the NFL. And now we beat the best NFL team that year. We beat them big, and we are world champs. So it was tremendous.
50 plus years later, how special is it and how cool is it to see your Chiefs making it? Well, they just won, like you said, a couple of years ago, and they are back in Phoenix, getting ready to face the Philadelphia Eagles.
The Kansas City Chiefs is a very big part of Kansas City community. It's good for the town, obviously, with a great fan base. The stadium seats 76,000. They're packed every game. The parking lot is 22,000 cars. People come in hours and hours before the game and tailgate. And it's on television from morning to night. It has a huge impact. It's a big deal in Kansas City. It helps us be a major city.
Do you see any similarities from your Super Bowl team back in 1969, 1970 to this one?
Well, we were blessed with a tremendous amount of talent. We had 7 or 8 guys that made the Hall of Fame from that team. So, and this team is loaded that way too. I think we'll win again, but it's going to be hard, like every game should be when you play the Super Bowl. But we have, and the kids, I call them kids, the young men, Mahomes, they handle themselves with so much grace and dignity. They say the right things, they do the right things. Andy Reid is a phenomenal coach. They love their coach, and they play well for him, play for him as well. We just have wonderful young men.
What is your score prediction, Jan?
I think it's going to be 34-30 Kansas City.
Jan, thank you so much. Good luck to your Chiefs, and we will talk soon.
You bet.